Hello everyone, it's Yasser again. I want to talk a little bit today, if I don't lose my footing here, about fear. So there's a lot of fear these days, right? For obvious reasons. But when clients come to me, when they want to make a change in their life, usually the biggest thing stopping them is fear, even if it's something they've wanted for a long time. So today we're going to dig a little bit into fear. And fear is one of those ancient things that's with us. It's programmed genetically, evolutionarily into us to protect us as a species. If there's a danger, in the old days it might have been a wild animal, and now it might be someone coming to attack you. We go into fight, flight, or freeze response, and that's to preserve our lives. So there are situations where, yes, if the car's coming, jump out of the way. Or if someone's coming to attack you, you can either fight back or you can hide, depending on what your instinct kicks in at that moment. But leaving that aside and dealing with the everyday, more mundane things of our lives, or actually the not so mundane, fear is kind of always there when we're trying to make some sort of big change or going after what we really want. Our default mode is to keep the body safe, to keep us safe, preserved, in shelter, out of harm's way. And so after a while, many of us in our modern lives get complacent with our jobs or our work, our income, and we feel a sense of safety and complacency, and yet there may be boredom, there may be something more that we are longing for and wanting to create. But then we say we're scared, we feel fear. Susan Jeffers wrote a book many years ago, and it's a bit of a classic. It's called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And in it, what she basically says is, despite the type of fear, everything from the existential, the fear of growing old, the fear of death, to the fear of losing a job or a relationship, right down to the fear of public speaking. There are different types of fear, but underneath all of those is this fear we have that I won't be able to handle this. I won't be able to handle this. So that's the first thing to recognize. And so how do we get to the point where we believe, or not even believe, or begin to see that we can handle it, that we can have some of these things that we want? And so we have to move beyond our fear, knowing that fear will be there as part of it. It's just part of the human experience. It's not going to go away. Georgia O'Keeffe, the famous artist, wrote, and I was blown away when I read this quote because it surprised me. She said something like this: I've been absolutely terrified every day of my life, but it's never stopped me from doing what I wanted to do. Wow. Here's a woman who was this amazing artist, who was terrified and yet went on to create this brilliant art. And so there's another distinction here I want to offer to you that I find is incredibly helpful in resetting your mind or your mindset around fear. And it's a quote by Ambrose Redmoon, who was a beatnik and a writer. And it's probably what he's best known for, is this quote. And he said, courage, which we often think is what we need to cultivate, right, before we can move forward and face our fear, is courage. He says, courage is not the absence of fear, but the judgment that something else is more important than fear. So the quote is something like that. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the judgment that something else is more important than fear. So if we can shift our attention to what is more important, that's where our freedom lies. And what I'm talking about here, usually when people come to me, is about a commitment. And a commitment is usually to something big. It's not an intention, it's not a to-do. It's really big. I am committed to the safety and well-being of my family. I am committed to living life the fullest I can. I am committed to my dream of building a business or a nonprofit or a relationship. So commitment's quite huge. So when we can attach to our commitment, then we have a whole different motivation to move forward. And suddenly that commitment becomes so big that courage or fear aren't really in the equation. Ask a mother whose child is at risk, and she's going to do anything to protect that child. And mothers then in that moment have done some pretty amazing things to protect their children because their commitment to their child is so great. So if there's something you want in your life that you don't have, if there's a dream, a vision, something you want to create for yourself, for the world, and for other people, then get very clear on what that commitment is. And what will happen is, if you walk down any path or a path towards what you generally want or would like, and it's not that strong, you're going to meet fear on the way, it's going to stand there and it's going to block your way. However, if you walk on a different path, a path that is clear and your commitment is known to you, and you may not know the outcome, but you're committed to finding out and exploring it, then on that path, you may meet fear, but fear is not going to stand in your way. You'll be able to push the fear aside and look towards what you're committed to. Look towards what's pulling you forward. The fear may not go. He may follow, it may grow, it may shrink. But at this point, you made a commitment to something larger than fear. Something else is more important. And I go back to Georgia O'Keeffe, whose work I love, and she left New York City and went out on her own to the American Southwest to paint because she had a commitment to bring her vision for what she saw to life. And we are all the richer for it. And when you follow that commitment, despite the fear, feeling the fear and doing it anyway, you'll be bringing a vision to your life, a vision to life that is important to you, and that when it's that big is likely going to serve others as well.